So we need a presidential candidate that's going to really combat that, and we need a Senate that's going to sign the. We need a new Senate.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's start over. Can we
Let's start with
over?
that. Are you ready to talk politics? We're talking primaries, purity test, and pugilism with Danielle Moodie-Mills today on the Marti Report. Hello, America. I'm your host, Marti Gould-Cummings, and welcome to the Marti Report. We are in primary season as a bunch of Democratic contenders duke it out for the nomination and the chance to get into the ring with President Donald Trump in the general election. Will it be a knockout? Will the Dems nominate a heavyweight? Will Trump fight according to the rules? I'm here with Danielle Moodie-Mills, radio host of Woke AF, MSNBC regular, and Warrior of the Resistance. Welcome to the show, Danielle. Let's dive right into the deep end. So you're very active on TV, radio, and Twitter, but Twitter, of course, as we know, can be completely terrible. I have a love-hate relationship with it. It's very back and forth for me. But why is Twitter so uniquely awful when it comes to political discourse?
I think because things have the ability to just go viral, right? You have hashtags that get formed on Twitter, and instantaneously, it's around the world, and it's retweeted a million times. I was blamed recently for having retweeted the hashtag Never Warren, and I was like, I didn't start it. I just shared it and said it was stupid, right? But they're like, then the blame game starts. So it's something that if it's good, it's great, but when it's bad, it's horrendous.
So we are in primary season, and purity tests are everywhere. Mike Bloomberg. Is holding Bloomberg's feet to the fire over stop and frisk a kind of purity test, or is that something else? That's the kind of big conversation, I think, around Bloomberg right now.
So I think that for Bloomberg, that is actually not a purity test. I think that for anybody who happened to be Black and Latinx and living in New York City during his tenure and before that with Giuliani, this isn't a purity test. It actually goes to the core of his understanding of racial animus, discrimination, and racism. And essentially, stop and frisk is a racial profiling policy that the New York NYPD upheld for many years, traumatizing generations of Black men, Black women, and Latinx women. And so, no, this is something that we need to understand the why behind it. And now he's come out and said that stop and frisk is something that he doesn't agree with, that he doesn't believe in. But that was just happened to be conveniently around the time that he announced that he was running for president. And so, you know, when you are digging into policy questions and policy discussions, that to me isn't a purity test. Whether or not you're gay, whether or not you should take endorsements from this person or how much money or corporate money, that's a purity test. But conversations about policy, especially that is going to damage and hurt a community that's considered to be the backbone of the Democratic Party, that's a question that needs to be answered. And frankly, I will just say this, what he has given us thus far ain't much.
When you look at candidates for the LGBTQ platforms, is there something specific within that you're looking for?
I'm looking for people that understand that LGBTQ is not synonymous with white, right? And is not synonymous with male. And so understand that the LGBTQ community is a community that is intersected with all others, right? And so you have to have a framework and an understanding of systematic oppressions in order to give us policies that are going to help everyone. Like, you know, marriage equality was considered to be a silver bullet in many ways for the community and to launch us into equity. But the reality is that a lot of queer people don't actually want to get married and don't believe in the institution. And so how are you advancing people outside of that? How are we helping young queer kids that are in schools that now have no guidelines and no parameters for administration and students that are bullying them? So I want a candidate that's going to understand that LGBTQ people are still not equal, that you can still get fired in a variety of states, that if you are transgender, you can be fired, you can lose housing, right? Under Trump administration rules, you could not be able to go to a homeless shelter of your gender. So these are things that we don't talk about often, and I want a candidate that understands the complexities of that.
There's something like 200 state bills across the country that are anti-LGBTQ, so we need a presidential candidate that's going to really combat that, and we need a Senate that's going to sign the we need a new Senate.
Okay.
Our primaries begin in overwhelmingly white states, Iowa, New Hampshire. Because of that, who loses out in that process? do you think?
I mean, people of color lose out in the process because what ends up happening is that you have these states that are not representative of the population at large. Iowa and New Hampshire are both around 90% white. The population at large in the United States is roughly about 62% white. So when you look at that, it's like you're looking to these states to wind down the field before people of color are even have an opportunity, right? So we get the leftovers, right, to decide with. And I think that we do things in America in a lot of ways just because it's always been what we've done, not because there's any logic behind it. So Iowa and New Hampshire may have made sense 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Yeah. It doesn't make sense now.
Well, it's the same thing with like the Electoral College. Maybe at one time it made sense, but in today's world, it doesn't work anymore. I always say that. Like we keep doing things because it's how it's been, and we can't change it. But why can't we change it?
Yeah, why do we spring ahead and fall back still? We're not on an agrarian system anymore. Agriculture does not lead our industry anymore, but yet we're acting like it does because it's something we've always done.
Always been. Oh my God, I say it, thank you. I literally say that all the time. It's like, why can't we change it just because it's always been this way? Well, let's update it.
Yeah, let's update it. We're in the 21st century. Let's think about these things. Let's think about, why aren't we starting our election season, our primary season in majority minority states? Why aren't we looking at Texas, New Mexico? Why aren't we looking at places like Georgia, California? Why aren't we looking at those places as representative of where the country is? Or maybe everybody just goes on the same day and it really
is one big primary day.
One big primary day.
Make it a holiday. Primary day and election day should be a holiday. Okay, so in Australia, it's legally required to vote.
Yes.
I think it should be, my opinion is it should be required to vote here
I feel the same way.
Because there's something like 100 million people or something didn't vote in the last election.
That were eligible to vote.
Yes.
That decided not to.
But then everybody's on Twitter complaining about what's going on and nobody's doing anything. So I think it should be a national holiday, get off work, and
vote.
You gotta go vote.
Yeah.
For the first 100 days of whoever the next president is, whether it's somebody who is elected from the Democratic side or if Trump happens to be reelected, what is your hope for the first 100 days?
Well, I'm going to pretend that we're not living in a dystopic reality. So what I will say is that my hope is that a Democrat is going to be elected. And my hope is that in the first 100 days of their presidency, that they would seek to restore faith in our institutions that have crumbled under Donald Trump, that they would seek to rebuild faith in our institutions like the Department of Justice, like the State Department, like the Department of Education, the Environmental Protection Agency, and all of these agencies this current administration has completely gutted. People are downtrodden. The morale of America, right? The morale of the country is low. We are burned out. We are exhausted. So we need, and I've said this many times, we need a healer. Right? Whoever is going to walk into the office, and I pray that it is not Donald Trump. I pray that America wakes up and comes to their senses. So if that is the case and it is a Democrat, then that person needs to also see their role not just as commander-in-chief, right? But also as a healer of this nation. We are broken, we are fractured, right? And we need somebody that is going to help put us back together again. And they need to understand that, right? It is not just going to be about platitudes. It's going to be about real action that we need to be taking, that this person needs to direct us, right, into taking as citizens of this country, because there was a decimation, right, of our values as American people over the last 4 years. We don't know right from wrong now. We don't know truth from alternative fact, right? And so the person that comes in for the next 100 days has a lot of work to do, right? But I think that the first steps that they need to do is really restore our faith and our belief in America and who we are as a people.
I like you so much.
I like you too.
Okay, we're gonna do a speed round.
Yes.
Okay, so if your campaign for president had a theme song, what would it be?
Freedom by Beyonce.
Park. What's your retreat when politics gets too overwhelming?
The Vanderpump Rules. Yes, I said it, and I'm embarrassed. I don't care.
Who are activists or leaders you look to for guidance?
I look to a lot of my friends. I have the ability to have friends that are in different spaces and places. My friend Rashad Robinson is the president of Color of Change, the largest online civil rights organization. I look to him for guidance, and I look to others like Joy Reid, who holds down MSNBC every weekend in extraordinary ways. So there are plenty of folks in all different spaces that I look to.
And was there a moment in your life that inspired you to get involved?
Yeah, it was marriage equality. It was the idea that, you know, people who loved like me were considered and are still considered in many ways second-class citizens. And I didn't want to, if I ever had kids, look to them when they said, you know, during this fight, during this next iteration of the civil rights movement as it pertained to LGBTQ people, what did you do? And me say I didn't do anything. I wanted to do the most, and so that's what I did.
Okay, Danielle, we like to close out the show with a little bit of what's on your mind. Your choice. You can pick a hope, something that gives you inspiration, or a nope, something you hope you never have to see or hear again. So what is your hope or your nope?
I will go with nope. And my nope is that I don't want to ever hear again that people are not voting when you are eligible and have the right to vote. I want people to get up, to make sure that they are registered, to bring every single one of their friends and get active. It matters. You have a responsibility. It is part of your citizenship. So when I ask random people on the street, did you vote? They better say yes.
Have a day of action plan. Yes! All right, that's a good one. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today, Danielle. So where can America find you?
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast. And folks can find me in Twitter at D2Cents, DEETWOCENTS, or on my show, Woke AF Daily.
Listen up, America. We want to hear from you. You can tweet to us at LogoTV and use hashtag MartiReport, or comment below and tell us what election topics you would like us to tackle. Please subscribe to Logo's YouTube and Instagram and join us next time for another scintillating round of hot politics on the Marti Report.